Hello, this is Sondra Oster Baras bringing you a few words of Bible from the heart of Biblical Israel. This week's Torah portion is Emor, and it includes Leviticus 23, where we have a whole list of our holidays and the feasts of the Lord. And I know it's a chapter that many people like to read and discover and take ways. Non-Jews, I meet many Christians today who are going back to this chapter and seeing ways that they can make their own lives more meaningful by adapting things that they're learning from these festivals of the Lord. I would like to focus on a situation or a law that actually falls right in between two holidays. It falls in between Passover and Shavuot, the Feast of Weeks, and that is the counting. Okay, and we read in verse 15, "You shall count from the day after the Sabbath, from the day that you bring the sacrifice of the Omer." Omer is a particular, the first offering of the barley harvest. 7 full weeks you should count, okay? And it talks about counting 7 weeks, 50 days, and then you're bringing a separate sacrifice, and that will become the Festival of Weeks, or the Festival of First Fruits, which is actually mentioned here as well. And we have the very end of this section, verse 21 and 22, we talk about a harvest festival. So what is this counting thing? Okay, we have the Festival of Passover, and, well, that's very nice, and that's discussed at the beginning. And then we have this idea of the Omer, the bringing the barley harvest, which is very agricultural. And then we have the counting, and then we go into the holiday of Shavuot. So counting is something we actually do to this day. There's a tradition in Judaism that beginning with the second night of the Passover holiday, we count exactly 7 weeks, and when the 7 weeks are completed on the 50th day, that indeed is the holiday of Shavuot. Now, it's interesting, by the way, I might point out that in verse 15 it says you start the counting from the day after the Sabbath. And if it's going to be the day after the Sabbath, assuming here we're talking about a Sabbath that falls within the holiday of Passover, that would mean that the holiday of Shavuot would never be exactly the same time. Because Sabbath, we know that the Passover holiday is the 14th day, or the 15th is the first day, the 14th day is the day that they bring the sacrifice, and then on the 15th day begins the 7-day holiday. We know that from the beginning of chapter 23. So we have a very specific date for Passover. But if indeed we start the counting to Shavuot from whenever Sabbath turns out, then Shavuot will be a different time every year. So indeed, our sages interpreted this as not being literally a Sabbath, but a Sabbath day. We know that within the Passover holiday, the first day and the last day of the holiday it's called in Hebrew Mikra Kodesh. It's a sanctified day, which means it's like a Sabbath day. It's a day we don't work, whereas the intermediate days are days that we do all kinds of things that we are not supposed to do on the first and last days. And so therefore, in this verse, in verse 15, the word Sabbath there is interpreted to be not literally Saturday, but it's interpreted to mean the Sabbath-like day that's the first day of the holiday. And therefore, from here we know we begin the count from the second day or the second night of Passover. Now, what's this counting all about? So, the context here is very agricultural. And what we're really doing is counting between two different harvests. The barley harvest, which begins Passover time, and the wheat harvest, which we are beginning to celebrate during Shavuot. And so this idea of the counting, it could be just a very simple kind of thing. This is that period of time, that 7 weeks when we go from one harvest to the other. And time for a farmer is very often measured in terms of planting seasons, harvesting seasons. The idea of a count like this, setting out your times of year by a count just could make a lot of very simple sense from an agricultural perspective. But there's definitely something much more here, because it's a commandment to count. It's not like, yeah, if you want to make sure you know when you're going to start your harvest, so count some days, or you can, or after it's been 50 days. But here, it's seen as a positive commandment to actually count. Now, what was not written explicitly here in the Bible, in this portion, but can be figured out. If you go back to the book of Exodus, you can figure out that this holiday of Shavuot, that is marked by the barley harvest here in Leviticus 23, is actually the same day that we celebrate the giving of the Torah, the Ten Commandments on Mount Sinai. Both of them end up being the 6th day of Sivan, the 6th day of the 3rd month. And so this comes together. And therefore, Jewish tradition very often sees the counting process as something way beyond something agricultural. When the children of Israel are redeemed from Egypt, they are let free from bondage. And that in itself is worthy of celebration, and that's what we celebrate on Passover. The tremendous miracles, the 10 plagues, the sudden exodus, the parting of the Red Sea, all of those miracles that had to do with freeing the children of Israel from Egypt are what we celebrate on Passover. But the process is not completed, because God basically has said, okay, I'm redeeming you from your nasty tyrant Pharaoh king and being enslaved to the Pharaoh king. But what does he do? Does he say, I'm setting you free and now you can do whatever you want? That's anarchy. God makes it very clear. I'm freeing you from one master so that you may freely worship God, a totally different kind of master. But indeed, as human beings, we need to serve someone or something. And there's a total contradiction between serving Pharaoh and serving God. Because if you serve Pharaoh, first of all, you have no choice. That's your situation. Serving God, number one, you always have a choice to serve God. You're supposed to, but you have a choice. And God urges us to choose life, because in choosing to serve God, you are choosing life. But we have a choice. And second of all, when we serve God, by definition, it releases us from serving any other human master. So in a way, you can say, well, what's the difference? You're going from one kind of enslavement to another kind of enslavement. But we know serving God is the most just, serving the most just master we could ever have. The wisest, just, you can't even compare. And by serving God, it frees us from all these tyrannies that we might be serving. And of course, if a person is, in any case, under persecution and forced to do things they don't know, their spirit can remain free so long as they are serving the one God. So why are we counting? We're counting in anticipation, because we went from being released from Pharaoh, but we can't wait. We are eager to come to that point, to that revelation at Sinai, when we will actually be entering into this very special covenant with God, the God of Israel. That becomes the culmination of the process that began with the Exodus of Egypt. So that we count this time every single year, even today when there is no temple, even today when we are not living in an agricultural society, or those of us at least who are not living in an agricultural society, when these dates are relevant to us. The idea of counting in eager anticipation towards our ultimate crowning of God and coming into this relationship where we have abandoned our human masters and we come to become servants only of the one God of Israel. That is a process that we eagerly anticipate, and that, of course, is what the counting is all about. Have a wonderful weekend. Shabbat Shalom. I hope you enjoyed that film. And we have lots more film content and emails and articles that I'm sure you will enjoy as well. Check out our website at CFOIC.com and subscribe to our newsletter. You can do that right from the homepage. I know you will really enjoy the content that will land in your inbox on a regular basis. Hope to see you soon.